rolling hills of Southern Virginia. That's where you find VIR, heaven on earth in the words of Paul Newman, one of the great racetracks in North American road racing. And today it's the site of the first of two races for GT America, powered by AWS. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is with me once more, as is Amanda Busick, patrolling a very warm pit lane today. Temperatures are certainly a topic of conversation. The weather has been all throughout the course of the weekend, and I think we have a chance to hear firsthand what that temperature feels like down in the pits. Amanda, how are you doing? Managing to stay cool?
Oh, you know, we're going back and forth from the podium over to pit lane, us and our camera guys getting all this action here at Virginia International Raceway, but I just saw Tom Sargent running down pit lane to Kyle Washington, getting him ready to this race. And as you said, it wasn't the best qualifying effort for Kyle. What happened?
For sure, we're not in love where we're starting, but nonetheless, it's a long race. He's definitely a lot better racer than he is qualifier. So yeah, unfortunately, we had a small mistake in qualifying, which kind of put him off rhythm and wasn't able to regain from there. So we had a much better GT World Challenge quali though, so that's promising. And yeah, he's in a good shape. He's feeling good. It's a very hot day, long race, so I think he'll be okay though.
One of the things that Calvin was mentioning in one of the broadcasts as well, but we were able to see Kyle Washington earlier in the week, and he looks like he's just really fit. He has used the summer to get in shape. Has that been part of your doing with him as well?
Not really, actually. He's been doing that himself. He's definitely working hard. He understands what's on the line here. This is the best chance he's had, in his whole racing career to secure a championship. So, he's in the right headspace. He's physically fit. Like you see him, he's definitely good there. So he's going to need all of that today with double back-to-back races. It's a tough one for him.
All right, we'll see you later.
Thank you.
We will indeed. Tom Sargent will share a car with Kyle Washington in the GT World Challenge America race later on this afternoon. But Kyle starting back in fifth in SRO 3, a bit of a surprise there, but he does always seem to come forward, and I'm excited to see what he can do once we get this 40-minute sprint underway. It's a relatively small field in terms of numbers, but the quality is really high, Calvin, and we look at those times in qualifying. It's remarkable just how close this field is as we look at our pole sitters. Justin Rothberg from Turner Motorsport able to secure the pole in SRO 3, GT4 pole to Michael Fitzpatrick. CJ Moses is here as well, the only entrant in the GT2 class. But super tight, especially that top four, but Washington wasn't too terribly far behind if you look at pace over the course of the weekend.
No, I think for Kyle, he's got a bit of work to do. He's coming off that brilliant victory at Sebring that really tightened up the points chase, only 2 points behind Justin Rothberg now coming in. And both those drivers, Ryan, are on the back of the last set. If you discount the first round of the championship, the last 7 races, they both had 3 wins and 4 additional podiums in that run. So they're both on form. We've had this big 9-week break. That will affect AM drivers more than anyone else. It's an AM driver field, so it's kind of an even keel in terms of that one across the board of these field. But as you look at the grid, they're very tight in qualifying.
Incredibly tight as you see how they line up. Rothberg on pole. Mamo Gidley running a partial schedule, but good to have Ski Autosports back once again, starting on the front row. Welcome back to Jason Bell, who's elected to focus his efforts here in GT America after starting the season in GT World Challenge America. Ross West, Kyle Washington, the rest of the SRO 3 field. Then it's CJ Moses making a return to the championship for the first time since Long Beach in his GT2 entry from GMG. Fitzpatrick and a newcomer, John Dean. More on him throughout the show, but a couple of cars from 89X Motorsports set to go in the GT4 class. And Dean making a big step out of single-make racing, MX-5 Cup and Toyota GR Cup in recent years, and has had decent pace here in his first GT4 start in GT America, powered by AWS. Here comes the field into the VP Acceleration Zone. Your Rover Pole Award winner, Justin Rothberg from Turner Motorsport, but he's got the veteran Mamo Gidley alongside as the green flag waves. Pretty good jump there from the BMW in Rothberg. That forces Gidley to cover off the line of attack to the inside. Look at Washington looking aggressive already here on the start. Battle is for third and fourth, and the inside, it's Bell in the black Aston, but Schwess sweeps around the outside, and he'll grab the third position away.
Yeah, that was really tight there. Mamo looked like he stumbled a little bit as they went to power there at the launch of the green, and Washington looks really like up on the wheel there, looking to make a move, but decided to tuck it back in there, line astern there as they come into the snake.
Snake for the first time, led by the BMW of Rothberg, then Gidley in the Audi. Schwest is behind in the Corvette, Aston of Bell, Porsche of Washington. Great diversity in the 5-car field. You've got 5 different makes represented, led by the BMW right now. Schwest and Bell duking it out 3rd and 4th. These two have raced against each other a lot over the years, primarily in GT4, but now they found themselves racing against each other in GT3 machinery as well.
Yeah, championship protagonists in probably GT4. Now they sit there battling out for a podium right now. Up front, Rothberg, a nice start. And as we've seen in years past, races past for Rothberg, he's certainly pretty stoic when he gets that position up front.
Tough one to get by. He's proven that in some intense battles with established names like Johnny O'Connell, Memo Gidley here this year. Rothberg's lead, half a second, clearing sector 2 for the first time. Looked like Gidley was closing in a bit through Oak Tree, but that BMW can stretch its legs down Madison Avenue, helps to build that gap.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Rothberg now carries that 26 kilos of extra weight, being a bronze derogated driver, so that'll certainly come into play a little bit deeper into this race.
Rothberg coming around to complete the first lap. His lead is roughly a second over Memo Gidley in the Ski Autosports Audi. Then Ross Schwest, Jason Bell, Kyle Washington still in 5th, despite the fact he looked so aggressive there on the start. And right now, he's starting to heap some pressure onto Bell. This is for 4th and 5th.
Yeah, and this is the tricky part of the race, right? You try and make a move here into turn 3, typically it ends up in tears. So Kyle again tucks back in, just trying to be patient at this stage. But he knows that this championship is tight, and the championship leader runs up front right now. Big points delta as they run.
Rothberg's advantage is a second. Schwest settling in nicely in the 3rd spot. But Bell and Washington, it's a good little scrap now. Bell clear of Washington, at least for a moment. That's allowed him to draw a bead in on the Corvette.
Yeah, Bella's looking pretty racy here. There's a BOP adjustment on the Aston Martin overnight, so they got a little bit less weight than they're carrying in the practice days here, and certainly Jason put that to work in qualifying this morning. Excellent qualifying run for him, very close to the pole.
Corvette, the horsepower here down the back straight. That Aston did get a slight BOP adjustment, and now Jason Bell trying to use that to his advantage. I assume that trickles down to SRO 3. We saw that for GT World Challenge America. Cal nods his head yes.
Yep. So we see Washington here. What can he do with that Porsche? Porsche's been pretty stout here this weekend. As his teammate Tom Sargent said, he made a little bobble early in that qualifying session, couldn't really get back into a rhythm, and that cost him.
Rothberg just inching up the pace. That lap, a 1:49.3. That's 0.4 of a second faster than Gidley. No one else sub 150 on that lap. So plenty of pace in hand there for Rothberg as he continues to build his advantage. That leaves us to watch this scrap, which continues to yo-yo. It seems like depending on where on the track we are, certain places Schwest starts to pull away, then Bell closes in, and then Washington's all over Bell from time to time. Really fascinating to see how that shakes out over the course of this 40-minute race. CJ Moses settling into a nice rhythm, 6th overall, just did his best lap in the only GT2 car in the field, and then Fitzpatrick, his lead over his teammate John Dean started to grow a little bit, about 4 seconds or so. We'll check in on that from time to time, but right now focusing in here on Memo Gidley running 2 seconds adrift of the race leader.
What a visual is to watch these GT3 cars haul mail up through those climbing S's there. The car totally on edge. It's pretty much flat all the way to turn 10, that left-hander where you slow it down by about 20, 30 miles an hour, but it is an awesome ribbon of asphalt here at Virginia International Raceway.
Here is the leader in GT4, Michael Fitzpatrick, who debuted at Sebring. Finished 2nd in the first race, had pole for the 2nd, didn't finish. He's had good pace though when we've seen him, and actually doubling up there this weekend. So 2 cars out of the 89X Motorsports stable. That's the team that Mike runs. Mike Fitzpatrick, as mentioned, joined by John Dean, kind of a late call up to run that second car, and then the two of them will combine in Pirelli GT4 America later on today.
Well, we see that a lot with the teams pulling double duty, using this GT America race, certainly to go for points in this championship, also to really get more track time, get tuned up for the Enduro a little bit later in the day. Got a handful of our competitors in SRO through, including Rothberg, Schwest, and Kyle Washington, going to be running a little bit later in the afternoon as well.
We've mentioned the GT2 entry. CJ Moses here. This is a home race for him. He's a Virginian, lives in the outskirts of the Washington, D.C. area, but has most of his track experience right here at VIR, prior to going pro racing, that is. Driving this beautiful GT2 Audi.
See the car a little bit twitchy there. These cars does not have nowhere near the downforce of the SRO3 category that he chases after, but certainly opens things up here through the high-speed section. Absolutely howls, this Audi does. Beautiful race car. Great to see CJ back out there this weekend. Loves his racing, very passionate about it, loves these venues that we visit on the calendar.
Super busy guy. In the last couple of years, got a big promotion. Has a lot to oversee at AWS where he works, so he's had to cut back on his racing program, but saw him at Long Beach, and we saw him once again here at his home track in VIR. Meantime, Justin Rothberg continues to lead, 3.5 seconds to the good over Memo Gidley. Let's get an update on our race leader now with Amanda.
Yeah, he just passed us here on the front stretch as we walk him head into turn 1. I was just talking to Will Turner about that additional up to 26 kilos. It will be on any BMW that Justin gets into, so as we see here in GT America, but they said where they're really watching how the weight add will affect Justin's performance or how the BMW will operate. It's really later in the race. The additional weight might have impact on the tire wear, so keep an eye on that with Justin's lap times. That should be fine in this race, but they're really concerned when we get to GT World Challenge.
It's been something they've been contending with all year long with Justin and his status as a derogated bronze. He's granted a silver lineup by the FIA, but that was adjusted at SRO's discretion, and that comes with that weight penalty that Amanda alluded to.
Yeah, it's not automatic. It's something that's really analyzed as you get deeper into the season. So it came in a couple of chunks. I think it was 13 kilos initially, then they doubled it up to 26. Unfortunately for Robbie Foley, who he shares the car with in GT World Challenge America, you see Gidley a little bit off and on there through Oak Tree. He has to carry it as well. You can't take it out during a pit stop, so makes it doubly difficult for Robbie Foley to perform. But not so much a hurt in qualifying, talking to her engineer this weekend, but certainly, as Amanda said, and Will Turner alluded to, over the longer run, it's going to have a little bit of an effect on the tire degradation factor.
Let's give a call to Ross Schwest here in the Schwest Povolato Motorsports Corvette, silver and black number 50. Not just keeping pace, but reeling in former IndyCar driver and stalwart sports car driver Memo Gidley.
You can actually see it visually, a different dynamic. There's a lot more energy going on with Ross behind the wheel. We bumped into him last night on the way into a restaurant here in Danville, and he said, been talking to the engineering staff at GM about how to get the best out of the aero performance on this Corvette. He said, it's a little bit contradictory to how I typically drive a race car, but I'm going to give it a go. But right now, he seems to be really hooked up, and it wouldn't surprise me if he can put some pressure on Gidley here for P2 shortly.
Had a good race the last time out at Circuit of the Americas, did Ross. Finished 4th in race 1, 3rd in the second one, had the fastest lap of the race. I say last time out, that was a couple rounds ago. But really solid performance there, comes in 3rd in points, but just getting more and more comfortable, and he's another one that's using this as a warm-up act, in point of fact, for GT World Challenge America, where we'll see him share this car with Aaron Povolato, the veteran Canadian.
Yeah, and just that mileage is so important, not only for a driver, but also for the whole group, with Aaron obviously on the sidelines here, but mentoring his teammate, just trying to learn as quickly as they can and get the maximum out of this Corvette, which is certainly a very potent GT3 platform.
It's new for the team, though, new for both drivers. We're getting good support from GM and Chevrolet. car has become popular around the world. You see it in a lot of different championships now, which is great to see. Corvette going the customer model, which is a requirement of GT3 racing, of course, but this is something that's new for them in their GT racing. On rare occasion, you would have seen the old GTE rule set Corvettes run by a customer team. Larbra comes to mind, running it from time to time in Europe, but to have the parts supply and the factory support, the engineering support, that's something that GM has not really done in the past, and they've had to build that up. By all accounts, doing a really nice job supporting their teams all over the world.
Yeah, I think it's really a totally different mindset to how they wanted to go about racing. You had Corvette Racing obviously winning on the global stage as well as here in North America, and I think they like to have a bit more control over all of the technical aspects. And that was a little bit wide. They looked like Ross was really close there, maybe just lost the front end there on entry to turn 4 and lost a bit of ground to Gidley. But now they've fully embraced this new GT3 era. As we've gone away from GT Le Mans type bespoke chassis and GTE over in the World Endurance Championship, and it's just a great business model. They build a great race car. They can kind of sort of balance the economy of scale with having to invest in a race car and have a lot more customer racing teams. And they've built up a brilliant support system with Corvette factory drivers competing. We saw Tommy Milner obviously last year here in our paddock. Corvette Racing factory driver having a great run with DXDT, and really brought that Corvette Racing platform to victory lane for the first time here in North America.
The Corvette Racing, as of this year, headed up by Jessica Dane, daughter of Triple 8 Racing team owner Roland Dane. So much success in supercars and in GT racing down under, but it's been a good month or so for that household, because her partner is Shane Van Gisbergen, who's won a handful of races here lately in the NASCAR Cup Series.
Yeah, he's certainly been spectacular. Just what a talent, and he always puts on a show. So yeah, certainly exciting times there. And she has great pedigree with her father, of course, so successful over the years running his Triple 8 operation down under.
Now Schwest continues to hound Mabel Gidley. Rothberg has cleared off 5.2 seconds to the good, and maybe now starting to think a bit about managing those Pirellis in the event we do get a full course yellow, everything bunches back up. Make sure you still have something to fight with if we do have a late race restart.
Yeah, for Rothberg, start on the pole here for the third time in the last 4 races, and right now he has the fastest lap of this race, which will dictate the grid spots for tomorrow's race as well. Second right now, and would share the front row with him, is Ross Schwest. It's pretty close with Gidley just a tick faster than Washington, but all 3 of those drivers in the same zip code compared to Rothberg, who's about half a second clear.
Really curious what's next for Justin Rothberg. Burst onto the scene last year coming out of Ferrari Challenge, and it took him a handful of weekends, but when he got to grips with the BMW and racing.
Bell really wide there through Oak Tree, and they had 0 speed coming on the backstretch. Washington's going to have a big run.
Porsche in the slipstream here. Back to the Rothberg story in a moment. Let's keep our eyes on this battle here as Bell fighting for all he's worth to hang on. Washington has him dialed in, looking left, looking right, coming back again to what becomes the inside here, but just can't plot a course around. And that is something a few of the Porsche drivers have mentioned to me. We can make lap time here, but it is hard to race sometimes. They feel like they're just a little bit down on top line speed relative to some of the competition.
Yeah, curious to what happened to Jason there through Oak Tree. Almost sounded like he's in a very high gear, and that could have been just because he's off the power and late to power because running a little bit wide, or whether he just wasn't able to get down that extra gear for that very tight corner. It's only about 50 miles an hour. Now Washington gets in deep, probably got in the ABS there, washes out the front end. He's got to regroup a little bit.
Not super dissimilar from the moment we saw from Schwest a few laps ago when he suddenly caught Gidley. Ended up going a bit wide right through this section right here, this left-hand bend.
Some of this comes down to, we talked about a 9-week layover. Carl Washington spent that time in the gym, certainly, because he's always been super strong looking, but now he looks really lean since the summer break. Spent a lot of that time in Vancouver with his family and kids, and But you're out of the race seat, and it takes a little bit when you're an AM driver to get back. Oh, he really flies the curb there, almost pulled a wheelie. That was cool. It takes a while to get back into your race rhythm.
I think always to keep an eye on in race one of these GT America races are the fastest lap of the race for each respective driver, because that sets the grid. Right now, Rothberg has the best, sets the grid for race two, I should say. Rothberg has the best lap by a healthy margin, but it is so close behind him. Gidley at a 49.179, Schwest a 149.091, Washington's a 149.185, so those three are covered by basically a tenth of a second, and then Bell not too terribly far behind either.
Yeah, it's certainly really tight. As we said earlier, Rothberg's kind of in a different zip code by 0.4, Claire, and looks pretty solid there and grabbing that fast lap and pole position for tomorrow to extend kind of that pole run that he's got going. Jason looks like he's got back into a rhythm, so it's just a momentary bobble there that he had through Oak Tree, so he's escaped the clutches of Washington a little bit, but Schwest has been super impressive here today. Very, very consistent, but Gidley using every ounce of his experience to extend that gap over P3, now up to 2.5 seconds there as they came through the last little mini sector.
As mentioned, fastest lap of the race does belong to Justin Rothberg, 148.620. That was set a few laps ago. Been nice and steady ever since. That lead has stabilized at 5 seconds, give or take a tenth or two on any given lap. Gidley not making much headway.
Seems to me like Justin Rothberg is such an even keel, do you know what I mean? He doesn't seem like he's super emotional. Yeah, he gets a little bit hyped up when he grabs a win or has a big day, but I think in the race seat, oh, little bobble there as a GT4 car tried to get out of the way and kind of tighten their hands there coming off onto that back stretch. Nearly lost control, but clears the lane there for Schwest to keep moving. But I think for Rothberg, he just seems so poised. He just seemed unflappable once he gets that track position.
That's the GT4 leader, Michael Fitzpatrick. Letting the overall leaders play through. Gave some sense of the speed disparity between the two classes. Here, there's plenty of places if you catch that lap traffic, if you're in an SRO3 car, you could just put the pedal down and power on by. But there are a few places where it tightens up. And if you're unfortunate enough to catch the traffic in those areas, you could lose quite a bit of time.
Yeah, I think in the tighter stuff where it's more about mechanical grip, there's not much to choose between a GT4 and GT3 car, but as soon as you get into any aero loop needed to get through the corners and certainly any straightaways, acceleration points, the GT3 car is going to perform a lot better.
Approaching the halfway mark of this 40-minute race, Jason Bell making the step back to GT America, where he's a former champion at the GT4 level. And Amanda has this update on his return to the series.
Yeah, Jason racing in his second season in the GT3 format. I am hearing it as a bit of a recalibration for Jason, as you said, stepping back into GT America. We last saw him in Long Beach, and Michael, I think for the World Challenge effort, we might see you guys back later in the season, definitely Indy, maybe another race. But when Jason is working on resetting himself and his mindset, how are you helping along in that process?
Yeah, I think just putting more of the emphasis on him instead of like trying to make compromises in the setup, compromises in the track time. Just I drove the car on Thursday to make sure we had good windows for him, and then just put all the focus on him, all the emphasis on him, not worry about driver changes or pit stops or anything like that. And I think it showed in the qualifying and how close we were to the front of the grid today. So we'll see how the rest of this race goes in the last half of it.
As we said, just in his second season in GT3, has Jason discussed the transition from formats with you?
I mean, as far as the transition from the two-driver to the single-driver format, I mean, this is as much or more of what he's used to running the sprint races by himself, so he knows how to manage the tire for the 40-minute stint. You know, he takes all the pit stops and cold tire stuff out of it. So, you know, I think it'll be good for him, and it'll get him back to where he needs to be, and then we'll go challenge for the 8-hour win.
Thanks, Michael. We'll see you later in a fire suit as well.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
That's the voice of Michael Cooper who has been coaching Jason Bell for the last several years, and as Amanda alluded to, will be racing in Pirelli GT4 America later on today alongside Tony Gaples in a Black Dog Speed Shop McLaren Artura. So plenty to look forward to there. Michael's been in really good form in GT4 McLarens in multiple series here in North America this year, and a great asset as well for Jason Bell, helping him along.
He certainly is, and he understands the big picture. Yes, he wants to be in a race seat. He'd love to be driving alongside Jason in GT World Challenge America. But when you look at the big picture, what's best for the program, you know, they realize that we need to focus on Jason right now. It's a big move up to GT3 machinery. Let's really focus on him, not worry about getting me in the car and all the things that I can deliver. But nonetheless,
I think this is John Dean,
yeah,
who's in the pit lane. Maybe some kind of a mechanical issue.
Just under indicating like the car's not turning or something, just from the body language there.
Done lap times within a second or two of his team boss and teammate, Mike Fitzpatrick, but has pulled off and into the pits. Right to the bottom of that. Look at this, Kyle Washington has run Jason Bell back down again.
He has, and he needs to try and get in around Jason. I mean, looking at the point swing here, he came in just a 2-point deficit to Rothberg, and could be a 15-point swing here with Rothberg up front and Washington down in 5th.
Yeah, good point. Kyle very much thinking about the championship this year, and why not? As you say, he's driving about as well as he has. This stretch of races dating back to race 2 at Sonoma, where he's finished no worse than 3rd in that stretch of 7 races, 3 wins sprinkled in.
Bell a little bit wide there through turn 1, just sort of scrambling to keep it together here. Did a nice job of getting back online and blending into that, where he had a little bit of a wide moment there. But Kyle is certainly probing, and you know, he's not afraid to get his elbows out, but he's going to be respectful of the guy he races against quite often.
Exactly. These two will have raced against each other to some degree over the years. Similar outlooks in some respects, both very intense. They can be aggressive when it's required of them. Both settling in as they gain more and more experience, making that transition, especially in Jason Bell's case, to GT3 cars after so many years in GT4, which has proven to be a really good launching pad for drivers, pro and the gentleman driver as well over the years. It gives you a taste of what to expect, and then you step into a car that just does everything a little bit better, which has to be confidence inspiring.
It is, and you need to be brave enough to explore those new depths that you can run these cars to, in terms of having the commitment factor. Big downforce means you got to commit to get the most out of the race car from an aero standpoint. Understanding that, I mean, we talk about these two drivers, big personalities, but still learning the fine tuning and the nuance of really getting the most out of one of these race cars.
And for this team too, let's remember this is the Racer's Edge team that is running this Aston for the first time this year. In previous years they had been linked up with Acura and had run the NSX with so much success. That car, outside of a one-off example that is running, I think, in British GT. There's a second evolution of it that's running in very small quantities, but basically that car is out of homologation to run here in the States. So they've moved on and started this new partnership with Jason Bell. And it's been an adjustment for everybody to, after so many years doing things a certain way, knowing how to unlock the speed in the Acura. Now you've got to learn a whole new system here with this Aston Martin Vantage. And that's what they're trying to do. Well, we saw John Dean in the pit lane. I think Amanda can give us an update on what might have befell him.
Yeah, I am looking at the 09 entry sitting right here. Good news is there is expectation that they're going to get this Aston Martin back on track. The complaint from John is that he's losing grip in the corners. I was listening to guys, I think we have an incident on track. Take it, please.
We do, Amanda. Jason Bell out of the car and frustrated. He's nosed into the tire barrier. And that pose, that look says it all.
Yeah, it just got a little bit wide on entry there. It's a really tricky corner. So easy to get caught out. If you're on the wrong trajectory there, and he is just frustrated, nosed it in, immediately opened the door like he knew it was game over. I wonder if something's already gone amiss here. Just watch on entry. He's just a little bit wide of the mark there. Sure if something, throttle stuck or whatever. I've been really curious. It's like coming through a lot of these corners. I'm not sure if he's running a high gear ratio in these low speed corners, but it always feels like it's really low down in the RPM range and kind of taken off by itself. But something caught Jason out there, whether it was technical or whether he just missed his marks a little bit. The fact that he jumped out of the car, opened the door and jumped out immediately is weird, because yes, he hit the tires, but normally you'd be trying to reverse out there, get it back to pit lane. So I wonder if something else is amiss.
We will endeavor to get to the bottom of that. It has brought out the safety car for the first time in this race. That erases that healthy lead from Rothberg to Gidley. It was about 6 seconds when this yellow came out, so that's gone. Now we wonder how much Justin has left. This is what we were thinking about earlier, talking about the potential of the tire wear being aggravated by the additional weight that that car is carrying.
This is always a tricky corner, as we mentioned, and added to that is the amount of rain that we've had here over the last couple of days. So this grass is just so wet. It's like a skating rink. As you're trying to brake and turn, you just got no one's home on the front end. It's just going to spear off the racetrack.
Did look like, though, that tire barrier did exactly what it was designed to do, absorbing so much of that impact. Much better to nose into the tires than to something more solid like Armco or concrete. Happy to see Jason out of the car under his own power. We got another look at what happened. Let's try and make sense of this here, Calvin.
Well, it looks fine right there, and then he's just coming in. I'd say he's about 3 to 5 miles an hour too much speed and just can't really get it wound down. So I'm not sure if he's got a hanging throttle or something going on there, but I've noticed a couple of times down in turn 1, certainly through Oak Tree a couple of times, it's like the car's kind of chasing itself through the corner and he just hasn't got it wound down enough. So I'm not sure if there's something technically creating that.
Now the safety team is there. They'll help attend to Jason first and foremost, and then work to get the car extricated so we can get back underway. It does bring a halt to the proceedings. And the good news, I suppose, for Jason, because we were talking about his championship pursuit, is he's past the halfway mark. So he should still be eligible to score points. That's one thing where the field size being what it is, as long as you get to halfway, you're guaranteed to at least get something out of your day. If the incident happens early, you could be left with nothing, and that's really costly in some of these tight championship battles, but does not look like that will be the case.
Yeah, I think for Jason, though, he's back in this championship to really just perform at the highest level and get podiums and ultimately go for wins. I don't think a championship's really on his mind at this stage of the season, but he'll be disappointed in damaging the race car. We'll try and get feedback from the team. If he was suffering with something, technically it was just a little driver error there in that corner.
Yeah, of course. Sorry, forgot that we hadn't seen Jason running the full season so far. So yeah, you're quite right. Championship not first and foremost in his line of thinking. So I retract those comments. Let's pretend that never happened, and we'll move right along. Rothberg, though, is thinking championship, and he's doing what he needs to do, controlling this race, and appears like he's got some pace in hand when he needs it.
Yeah, not ideal for Rothberg. You think about the championship picture, wasn't it? Back there in 5th. He had the lead, comfortable margin. How much of these tires have he used up? So we'll see how much time we have left on the board when they eventually get this car hooked up and clear the way. And then you got Washington now right back on the tail of Schwest. So if he could suddenly climb on the podium, what went from like, you know, a massive swing of 15 points could be cut dramatically.
Well, and if nothing else, it's a position for Washington that it wasn't clear he was going to take on pace alone. So it's 4th place points for Kyle at the minimum, instead of what was looking like it could have been 5th in what is a very tight championship here at this stage in the season. The GT4 championship, we should note, is really a bit of a confusing one to figure out because Tony McIntosh was leading by quite a bit, 50 points, I think, coming into this weekend, but he's elected to focus his attentions on a European program. So anyway, we won't be seeing him for the foreseeable future, and that kind of leaves the GT4 championship wide open. We'll see who steps in to fill the void as the season progresses. Now, we had to briefly interrupt Amanda. She was giving us the update on John Dean earlier. Let's finish off that story now while we have a moment.
Yeah, and I saw him leave pit lane, and I was hopeful he's going to re-enter the track, but I was told that he was headed to the paddock area. They're having some overheating issues with that. Aston Martin did confirm that Michael Fitzpatrick is okay as he continues to contend in this race, but just prior to John leaving the track, the team was going over kind of some details of setup with the Aston Martin representative, talking about camber, talking about tire pressures as they start their efforts within this GT America paddock. So good to see the support from Aston Martin, and hopeful we can see a full race from John tomorrow.
Yes, definitely. It was exciting to see him get this called up. He's a MX5 Cup champion in some of the different classes there over the years. He's been running at the front in GR Cup, especially in the category, the Legends category that's debuted this year, but actually has been a factor in the overall as well over the course of the season. And I had often wondered what he could do if you gave him a shot in a GT type car. This was a big weekend for him to show it, and important too for them to spend some time with the Aston representative, because again, this is not the end of the day for them. John Dean that is, and Michael Fitzpatrick will be teaming up later today. So if they have some overheating issues now, it's going to be a bigger pack of cars. They're going to be in more traffic. So important to identify that and try and make sure that they have they've got out in front of that potential problem ahead of the GT4 America race. Looks like lights are out on the safety car. Rothberg certainly picking the pace up. Field kind of strung out, quite frankly. But safety car is trying to leave them behind. Rothberg now woes it up a little bit, but everybody really strung out here. This is a bit strange. It does appear the cleanup is complete, though. So with just under 7 minutes, we're approaching a critical restart to this race. Rothberg in the BMW. As he used up his stuff, does that give an opportunity for Gidley to go on the attack? How about Ross Schwest, who was looking threatening at times in the first 20 minutes or so? And Kyle Washington got gifted a bit of track position with the misfortune for Bell. Now he sets off looking for a spot on the podium. Here we go again, 6.5 minutes to go. The green flag is out. Good getaway from Rothberg. And Gidley looking vulnerable here a little bit as Schwest peeks up the inside. Gidley slips wide. The battle is for second and third here, but Gidley recovers beautifully.
He really did. I mean, that was a really close moment there. I think Rothberg overslowed the car down in turn one. Be careful. Gidley narrowly ran over the top of him. Either got into the ABS or had to give up the brake pedal completely. Went straight. Looked like Schwest was going to go through.
Now Schwest has his hands full with Kyle Washington. That Porsche shown glimpses of pace at times in this race. All of it, though, happening comfortably behind Justin Rothberg, who's starting to pull a bit of a gap once again. Oh, Washington taking a look inside of Schwest. That's not a place you often go side by side, and discretion definitely the better part of valor there. Washington backs out.
Yeah, normally if you go side by side there, one of you doesn't come out the other end of that corner, so
minimum.
Yeah, that's a risky move there at the best of times, but he had a good run. He tried to make it stick, but he's being pretty conservative for Kyle Washington right now, but let's see if he maintains that poise until the checkered flag. He can see some points right in front of him available.
Yeah, Schwest looked like he was struggling to get the power down out of Oak Tree there. Had to back out of it, got back in. Now vulnerable perhaps to the charging Kyle Washington, who has the bit between his teeth. Schwest in the Corvette, able to hang on as they reach the end of Madison Avenue and plunge down the hill in roller coaster.
Yeah, real key is during those safety car laps is to keep those tires prepped. Don't fall asleep. You've got to really work those tires over, work the brake pedal against the gas pedal, keep some energy in them. it seems like Schwest is now starting to come alive again, but Washington got really close there. Big run down Madison Avenue, but couldn't go anywhere with it.
What it's definitely done is give a reprieve to Memo Gidley. He does not have to think about playing defense at all. He can focus on trying to mount an attack on Rothberg. Meantime, here comes Washington again. Oh, and he slips up. Washington balked a little bit in the braking zone, goes wide. Great job to save it, gather it back up. But Schwest now has escaped up the road.
Yeah, trouble is there when you're right on threshold braking anyway. If suddenly the car doesn't get out of the way, you go at that brake pedal, lean out a little bit more, that'll kick in the ABS, and that really takes away your steering ability at the same time. So that's why you go straight on. A little bit of a bobble is going to really take the pressure off Schwest and really stymie Washington's potential of a podium run.
Rothberg again able to answer the challenge. You called it right off the top. If he gets to the front, he's a hard guy to get past. He's not flappable. He doesn't make many mistakes. Pressure doesn't seem to get to him in any major way.
No, there's Rosella, Memo Gidley's engineer, smile on her face. She missed that big victory that they had at Sebring. She had been there in the track early in the week with the testing and the prep of that race car, but she was down in Miami with another championship. So she was on the horn, she was on the phone, dialing in and talking the guys through the race, but nonetheless, great to see her back on site here this weekend.
It's a great little team. Missed them for the first 2 weekends of the season, Sonoma and Long Beach, but rejoined at Circuit of the Americas, and then, as you say, broke through for the big win at Sebring in the first race there. For this team, it's interesting that their former championship rival has become their driver now, with Memo coming over and joining the ski camp this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much to choose between Johnny O, who used to drive for the team, of course, and Memo Gidley, champions from the last 2 years.
2 laps to go here at VIR. Rothberg leads now by 1.5 seconds over Gidley. I was speculating earlier what the future might be for Rothberg, who I think surprised himself by winning a title in GT World Challenge America last year. Came very close to a championship here in GT America too. And under the tutelage of Robbie Foley and with Will Turner and that team looking after him, you gotta believe the future is very bright.
Yeah, they just got such a great organization there, and I think Robbie Foley's kind of the backbone on the driver's side to really mentor a lot of these drivers that he co-drives with and assists in various racing programs with the Turner Racing Band. I just got a note from Michael Cooper, who's on the sidelines for Jason Bell, said basically no rear brakes when he went into that corner, and the fire extinguisher went off. That's why he jumped out, and that's why we kind of probably saw him shaking himself off when he got to the tire barrier there.
Okay, it's very strange. Happy Jason's all right. Scary moment down in Oak Tree that brought out the only full course yellow of the race so far, and hopefully will remain that way with just over a lap to go. Rothberg's lead, 1.5 seconds. Equidistant back to Schwest from Gidley, second to third, and then Washington. If he's got anything left, maybe now's the time to try and crank out a fast lap to improve his starting position for tomorrow. It's really close, wouldn't need to find much, but don't know how much is left on the Pirelli P0s after nearly 40 minutes of hard running.
Yeah, looking at these lap times, Ryan, they seem to be a good second off their best laps of the day, so I'll be surprised if anyone can get close to that fast lap of the day or make any improvement. But certainly Gidley, great to see him back in our championship, and they've been on quite the run since they returned at Circuit of the America. This will be their 4th podium out of the 5 races so far on their reset with the championship, including that big win at Sebring in round 1 there.
Well, Justin Rothberg on his final tour, for the day at least. Well, not for the day, that's not true at all. He's got GT World Challenge America still to come today, but for this race, let's put it that way. And he is closing in on what would be his 4th win of the season. Nice solid day for CJ Moses here on home soil, the Virginian. Putting in a nice drive and just enjoying driving a supercar around one of the great tracks on the continent.
Obviously the only car in his category, but that doesn't stop the enjoyment factor, as you said, in terms of driving a machine like this around this brilliant racetrack.
I think this place in Road America would be the tops, right, for a GT2 car where you could just let all that power loose.
Yeah, I think so. I think in whatever you're driving, they're two of my favorites. So really looking forward to getting back to Wisconsin here in a few weeks as well.
Yeah, lucky for us. Back-to-back on the schedule. We have an embarrassment of riches, I think, when it comes to choices for circuits here in the States, and include some of the tracks in Canada as well. Love to get back up north of the border again, but that's a subject for another time. Right now, Justin Rothberg has conquered VIR from pole position, never really challenged. There's the checkered flag. Rothberg and Turner take the win in race 1 of the weekend by 4.8 seconds over Memo Gidley. Ross Schwest, a really strong day. He comes home a fighting third. Kyle Washington will take fourth. Bit disappointing, I think, given his expectations coming in, but nevertheless does at least get fourth to stay in touch in the championship. Here comes CJ Moses to see the checker flag. CJ completes the run in just his second start of the season. Remember, he didn't get to start race 1 at Long Beach due to a technical issue. And for Fitzpatrick, third start in the championship, first win in the championship. The team boss gets the job done behind the wheel, and now Fitzpatrick and Dean will prepare themselves for a run upcoming in Pirelli GT4 America a little bit later on today. Now that's race 1 in the books. A look at your winner in the overall and in SRO 3. Justin Rothberg extending the championship lead now with his 4th win of the season. It is his 8th consecutive finish on the podium. And in that stretch, he's only finished worse than second once. He was third in race 2 at Sebring. So it's basically been first or second for the bulk of the season. Finished 5th in the season opener at Sonoma, and that's really the only hiccup, such as it is, that we've seen from Justin all year long.
Yeah, really picked up nicely from where he left 2024. Didn't sit in a race car from the drop of the checkered flag at Indy all the way to the opening weekend at Sonoma. So testimony to him to just get back into the groove. And I think even on weekends like this, we talk about the 9-week break, he just uses he doesn't seem to get flustered. He just uses those practice sessions. By the time you get into the race, he's suddenly right where he needs to be.
Well, maybe for him, another 9-week break. It's nothing new, right? He had basically the same over the winter where he was not in a car. So maybe he was less affected than others might have been. Here's a look at the finishing order here today with Rothberg over Gidley. Again, amazing. He was able to pull a 4.8-second gap in just, what was it, 3 laps, 4 laps after the restart. Schwest was right there too. And a pretty solid day today to get a podium finish. I suspect Ross will be pleased with that. It's his 2nd podium of the year to go along with race 2 at Circuit of the Americas. Then it's Washington, Moses, Fitzpatrick, Bell, and Dean. The finishing order here today. Look back on today's race. Rothberg started from pole position, got a great jump early, never looked back, was never truly challenged. Can't say the same though for, same thing here for Gidley and Schwest. Good battles for them. We also had a good fight here with Jason Bell and Kyle Washington, but it all went wrong. Mechanical issues sent Jason Bell on a wild ride into the tire barrier. That ended his day early and his return to the championship early as well. On the restart though, Rothberg pulled away. Good battle between Schwest and Washington. Washington was looking threatening, but came up just a little bit short. It was Rothberg that saw the checkered flag first. So the field back from the cool-down lap, making their way back to the paddock, and very soon a chance to hear from our race winner, Justin Rothberg. What was another dominant display. And it does go some way to validate the performance when you're up against the likes of a Memo Gidley, which I think is so valuable to have someone of his experience in this field for the drivers with less experience to compare themselves against.
Yeah, and it looked really tight after qualifying, but Rothberg just got the jump at the start, got his head down. Gidley looked threatening a couple of times, but couldn't really make it stick. And then the last lap there, Gidley was way off the pace. So I think that's why the eventual margin of victory was so high as it was, nearly 5 seconds. But I think they'll be happy. That was Ski Autosports. I think getting the lead and getting that track position, Gidley's got so much experience. If he can get out front, maybe he could make something happen with that.
We will see if the script can be flipped tomorrow, but Rothberg sending a message here today with that strong performance. He pulls into Parc Fermé, joined by CJ Moses and Mike Fitzpatrick. Rothberg climbing out to celebrate his 4th win of the season, and the Turner team there to congratulate him and celebrate alongside. Sadly, we won't get a chance to hear from him here today, but we hope for a chance to tomorrow. Great performance from Justin Rothberg, winner of Race 1 at Virginia International Raceway.